say the least. And to say my most, I'd like to thank you all for being here. This opportunity means quite a lot to me. I enjoy this hobby of ours, and I enjoy spending time with you and these characters. So, once more into the breach, I'd like to ask if there are any questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners that we need to round off before diving fully into our second episode. Glorious silence, always a good thing, meaning that we are reading from the same book, if not the same page, chapter, and verse. And with that being the case, with that being that, my thanks fully and always eternally extended to your time, effort, and energies. I'd like to say that this is officially, without a shadow of a doubt, Soup City Sins, Season 19, Episode 2. The Free Man's Prom. There are many traditions that we as Americans have. There are many traditions that are passed down one hand to the next, one embarrassing photograph to the next. We, like all things, all humans and animals across the globe, like tradition. We like things being the same, despite the fact that change is the one constant in the totality of the universe. We like knowing what surroundings we are in. We like knowing or believing that we are in fact safe. We need a certain amount of traditions, because in the passing down of those traditions, we pass down the immortality of ourselves, our memories, our moments, and our love to future generations. But not all traditions are made the same. Not all hallowed instances of familial piety have the same value. And one of the many traditions in our society, in the kindred community, is not only the first rule of never get caught, or don't fuck up, and if you do fuck up, make sure that no one knows that you did. Find a patsy, find someone to blame it on, find some reason why your fuck up was in fact a matter of survival for the entirety of the kindred community. The other tradition is never go a place where you don't know all of the exits. Never put your immortality on the line unless, of course, you are sure that the juice is worth the squeeze. And only slightly less known is one does not fuck with the police. Not simply because of the hands-off policy instituted by the very first prince of the city. Not simply because it was upheld and added to the practice of the longest reigning prince of the city. But in Chicago's history, it's 4 princes. It's 4 actual princes of the capital city of the Camarilla on the United States soil. Not one has ever allowed the violation of that understanding. Don't fuck with the police. Doesn't mean that you can't have your sources, your associates, your friends even, or in the actual case in kindred society, those that you utilize as tools, your belongings. It means that as a whole, a minor bit of influence over a small particular portion of the city, or a small detective or beat officer can be overlooked so long as you don't get caught. The coterie, when we last left, were in the midst of planning how to meet a relatively tenured detective, a training officer who has been involved with a part of the Chicago Police Department for at least 2 decades, perhaps longer, the facts of which are beyond them to know what and how long. Now, in this preparation, as we turn our eye once more towards the shelter itself, them sitting in the office with preparations before them, what is it that they might be up to?
Well, Lolly is probably still freaking out, but in a quiet sort of way.
First, I wanted to point out that I changed Hester's picture, so anybody who wants to know what she looks like now, I guess you can take a peek. Can they see my channel, or do I have to post it?
You would have to post it in either fan art or in one of the more public forums.
Okay, I'll do that in a sec. But then, Hess is going into scientist plan mode. Like, she knows what they have to do. They have to talk this guy down. They promised him something, but they're not exactly planning on delivering on that entirely. But they will let him leave unharmed unless he offers them harm, is what she's kind of planning for. So they, like I said, she's just kind of getting the office ready, getting her head straight, wiping this whole post come down guilt off. Like, she's even kind of like taking makeup wipes out of her drawer, wiped her face, reapplied it. That's what she's focusing on, putting on that. I've got to put on my war paint. I got to be ready for this because I know he's going to come here and try to trip us the fuck up and take me away, and I'm not allowing that. But we don't have somebody who confessed, so we need to figure out how we're going to, like I said, bullshit him and get him to back down. And that's where her head is.
So the question begs itself, while all of this is tumbling through Hesha's mind, and while Lolly is comparing what is versus what was versus all of the many shards of the potential future that have evidenced itself thus far, what is Miriam doing? As Hesha is all but wiping and calmly on the surface removing her makeup and straightening her face, and Lolly is still there in the chair in the corner of the office. What exactly is Miriam doing? Because while she was outright placid, as she always is, she literally met the first horrific moment of her kindred existence, when the world stopped making sense for those few moments it took for her to be shunted back to whenever that was, sitting across the desk from Mr. Gabriel, agreeing to something that she had no immediate concept of. She dropped into a moment that had clearly already happened. Yet that agreement, whatever it was, seems to still be carrying today.
Well, she is going to sit down, pull out her sketch pad, and just sketch to help herself focus.
Okay, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your composure and performance? Or craft, actually, because you're just sketching. You're not doing it for anyone but yourself. How much of what is internally in her subconscious begins bleeding through? How much of her calm is made apparent due to her grasping her subconscious clues and making them somewhat real?
Even is my PDF program doing? There it is.
Were you asking me a question, or are you still on Miriam there?
No.
As Lolly is still in the midst of coming to grips with what she's coming to grips with, what might that actually be, considering she is seen so in fact very much, yet it's having all of the puzzle pieces but no picture on the box to compare it against?
She will keep working it in her mind, probably to the detriment of preparing for what they're about to immediately deal with.
So that's a lot.
There are moments when the magic of the world conspires against the day-to-day reality. The will workers that exist in this version of the world would call that a paradox, would call the instinctual rubber banding of reality fighting against the fantasy of what could be or what should be or what was, creates a dissonant moment that tries to shunt you from reality. And in the expression of what she was feeling and what she understands, in the presence of the eye of the storm, as far as it's concerned, seeing all of the swirling possibilities and probabilities in the midst of Hestia's aura of forced calm, carefully plotting out how to best accomplish a goal that seems untenable, the magic of this moment comes into being through all of the output of energy and thought and sheer wattage in this room. And it takes Miriam a moment, looking down at what she's managed to cobble together, what she's managed to sketch out. The sound of her pencil as it glides across the paper being the only actual sound escaping, that constant until sitting before everyone, amongst all of the many doodles and half-begun thoughts, is a picture of what this room once looked like. In another corner of the same pad of just sketched ideas is a picture of what the shelter as a whole looked like then, when it was a hospital turned hotel, when it was a respite, a sanitarium, yet one for those with money and pedigree. No images of it as in its former state exist. It's almost as if it was purposefully erased. And it takes Miriam a moment praying that she's not seeing what she is in fact not seeing. Praying that those clouds are not actually moving, though there is a sense of movement to them. Praying that those lights in those rooms don't go on. Praying that she doesn't see some two-dimensional being with full life and breath walk onto her page. But it is so in fact very lifelike and very accurate that it could be used to redesign the room or rebuild the room as it once was. At that very table, her dark caramel-skinned hand reached across the table. In this very room, she made an agreement with Mr. Gabriel, though she called him Alphonse. In this very room, she remembered him addressing her as LaSalle. In this very room, she knows that her name began with a K or something along those lines. And she knows that it wasn't her, but she was there. She lived in that moment. And it's hard in the presence of such clear skill and talent for others to not be drawn to it. So as Hestia's pacing and wiping away the last remnant of stress, the last remnant of visible stress from her skin, and Lolly is in the distance building castles in the sky above their head, their gazes fall across her page. And for Lolly, the room is very reminiscent to the group therapy sessions that Newberry used to hold. And for Hestia, she has a picture of the desk that is no longer there, that Karen kept. It's in her study, in the home that she used as her secret code that was all but violated by those pesky dustboard.
Once Tess feels like she's got herself mostly pulled together, I want her to go out and make sure that the staff, such as it is, most of the residents, kind of settle for the night and stay out of the way. Because we know there's been a lot of upheaval. There's been the whole "what was that" with the crash, and everybody's probably a little tense. So she kind of wants to make sure that she reassures Amalia and whoever else is there currently at the time, hey, the cop is coming back, but it's for a specific reason. We asked him back. I'll handle it like I handle everything else. Be cool. Stay out of the way. Stay out of sight if it helps. But just calm everybody down.
So as she leaves the office, leaving the very real remnant of her past sitting there on Miriam's page, walking past Lolly to head out to deal with the mortal patrons who are not as aware as to what may actually be happening right beneath their nose. And as Hestia leaves the office, leaving Miriam and Lolly, is there any moment, is there a conversation had between the two?
There's a crown in the south and a scepter here, and Hestia is in danger. She's a key. She's probably going to die.
Miriam will arch an eyebrow at that.
What?
A crown and a scepter. And Hestia is the key.
She's a key. What's going on in the south? You've been south, right?
A while ago.
Like how long? 1 week, 1 month, 10 years?
At this point, it'd be a few months, right?
Yep.
Been a few months.
Okay. There's something going on down there. It's very important.
Important, like we should go check it out. Important?
Well, like, not right this minute. It seems like you guys spend all your time chasing your tails, either by design or just dumb luck, and things happen around you that are increasingly worse, and it could be prevented if there was some focus.
Well, sometimes and is just along for the ride.
It's not your fault. That's what they want you to do. But you need to remember sometimes when you have to turn left or right, you could just say fuck it and go straight.
She will set her pad down in her lap. And what is straight?
It's the direction they don't anticipate. It's all a big game, and we're all pieces on the board. And it doesn't matter how hard you try to not be part of that game, you're part of it. You can either remain a part of it and pretend you're not, or you can learn to play it.
I never wanted to get into politics.
Then you should have never become a kindred. You could let them think you're crazy. That works for a lot of my brethren.
So third star to the left, straight on to morning.
You don't want to be outside when it's morning.
And speaking of not wanting to be outside, would you be so kind to go ahead and roll your charisma and persuasion in regards to gauging how effective her attempts at calming the populace are? Because in a matter of a few moments, hours quickly speeding by, the shelter, not the coterie, not the building itself, but the actual shelter portion of the shelter's haven has been besieged physically from within, externally by the police, and then emotionally by the reemergence of Arsenio clearly in the employ of a bigwig fat cat who showed up flexing his muscle that some of the older members had seen before. Some of the older residents had seen him before. Not just the fact that he's so similar to that movie with Sean Connery that was done here, Elliot Ness, and with the Chicago Way, and with all of the mobsters that used to be operating in the city, in and around the area. But no, they'd seen him specifically, Mr. Gabriel, before. And it begins with a subtle whisper that's drawn to an immediate close when she exits the office. People turning away. One or two giving that empty, fake smile of, hey! And then she makes her way into the commissary, where Amalia, again, has taken it upon herself to employ several members of the residency as dishwashers and garbage men and mopping the floor. No sense in not helping. As you catch Amalia halfway out the back door, you know what that means. She does her absolute best to not smoke as much as she would want to. Yet, every time she heads out the back door, you know that's exactly what she is intending to do. And she's been pretty good about it since, almost dying. She's been pretty good about it since the last time where the shelter was besieged, where she's still dealing with the rumors and the glimpses that she caught of Hestia standing on the back of a car, mouth wide, and seemed to be as if she was possessed by a wolf or a hyena or a coyote or something predatory. She's dealing with all of that plus the fact of the recent proliferation of mice and rats and various rodentia that she's managed to do her absolute best to keep out of the building, out of the kitchen. And though she has several traps of various sorts, glue, snap, and otherwise spread throughout various places, she's managed to not catch any. She's also managed to not see any in the kitchen, but it doesn't stop worrying her. Not because of the rats themselves. Rats are easy to understand. It's the pets that come with them, the bugs that come with them, those little small mites and gnats and flies and mosquitoes and things that are far deadlier than all the mice and rats in the world. And as she enters into the commissary with her attempting to sneak out and caught in the act, she stops by the door and begins rearranging some of the canned goods that are there. The huge metal tins weighing about 5 to 6 pounds each. She's hefting and moving and reorganizing.
Tess would smirk at that attempt to hide what she was obviously going to do. Catch up with Amalia and say, hey, need some air? We can go talk outside. That'd be great.
And as she says that would be great, and the smile that drips across her face, it definitely is not just a camaraderie moment that's playing behind her eyes. She does a good turn of averting her gaze and tapping the can once more, making sure that it's level in its already level position, and tucking the cigarette for the first time out of her mouth and behind her ear, and slips her hands into her pants pocket, following behind Hestia. Molly's one of the few true believers in the idea of service to others. She was at one point a Michelin-starred chef. She was also at one point as far down and out as one could be. And if not for the assistance of others, she probably still would have been. The tenacity of the things that she's seen and experienced and survived didn't happen without leaving a myriad of scars. So as you all step outside the back kitchen door, the same door where Simone challenged her, the same door where you all last actually saw Raul and his uncle, the last time where you had Donnell put an end to dealing with most of the black market suppliers. If walls could talk, this door was singing you an old epic. Yet here you all are, in the cool of a Chicago night, just past the official start of winter, just into the period where everything turned wet and cold and drifted into the coldest month of the year, just before the hawk decided to not only pilfer your clothing but threaten to tear it free from you. As you all stand back here in this cool moment, surprisingly warm for the season, what is it that Hestia is attempting to say over the lake?
I know, we've worked together for years now. It feels like forever, almost. And I am aware of the fact that I don't seem to appreciate you as much as others do. As often as I should tell you thank you, I seem to bark only orders and expect you to read my mind and be prepared for things that nobody who runs any sort of sane shelter should have to be prepared for. So if I don't ever get to say it again, she looks up in Amalia's eyes. Thank you. Really, because you and Donnell are the absolute backbone of this place. I get the credit because my name is on the paperwork, But you two, I could not do this without. Honestly. And that is the most truth I have told in so long, it's not even funny. So, again, thank you. I've also been playing with the idea of getting the shelter a couple cats. I think it would do well for some of the smaller residents of the shelter to have somebody smaller than them and more helpless than them to take care of, but they could also serve another purpose. And she looks Amalia very clearly in the eyes. I know what's next door. It's a city. It's Chicago. It's hard. You keep the cleanest kitchen I have ever seen. But I know what's next door. And I know how easily one of those creatures could get in and cause us to lose everything. So, couple kittens from the shelter. I'll let you guys make a trip of it. Have some of the kids go pick out not too feral of cats, please, because I don't want the health department mad at me if somebody gets scratched or bitten. They need to be vicious enough against animals, but not against the kids or other people. Once you've picked enough to feel like they could do a strong enough job, we will get the supplies we need for them, and you bring them by my office, and I'll take a look at them and decide yes or no to keep each. Probably tomorrow night, because tonight the cop is coming back, and I wanted to make sure that you knew that. But I will, like I said, be handling him coming back. With something right now, because I know a thing, and I know it's gonna hurt a lot of people once they find out. And I kind of don't feel like I should keep it from them. You being one of those people. But I need you to tell me whether or not, if I tell you this truth, you're gonna be able to handle it.
Miss Hess, thank you for saying thank you. You're great.
Please don't worship me, I'm a fucking monster. I know that I do things I shouldn't have to keep this place running. And I don't want you disillusioned at the type of person I really am. I got into this for the right reasons. And I try my best every night to stay in this for the right reasons. But I've slipped and fallen off the path quite a bit of times.
We all make mistakes. It was the hardest thing. It's the reason why for a lot of years I relapsed. I slid back. I had this idea that sobriety was a location that you could get to, and I had it in my head that if I just got there, it would be the solution to all my problems. And I got there a lot of times. I got clean a lot. I got free of a lot of my demons temporarily. I made it to sobriety, and I found out that it's not a location. It's not the finish line. It's a job. It's an effort. It's eventually I'm gonna fail. Eventually, we all do. It's not letting my expectations of it being this magical place that helps me stay in a sober mind. It's what helped me find my love of food again. Yeah, I'm not up at 4 in the morning and 2 in the morning and not going days on end without sleep to make sure I have the right ingredients. I'm catching the freshest market. I'm catching the freshest fish. I'm not doing any of the other aspect of it. I'm not partying all night. I'm here because I want to be. And I'm sober because I want to be. And it is a everyday fight to stay here. My demons, my monsters, they stop by and visit me every day. And I know I'm gonna fail. I know I could fail. I know that I could lapse from my sober mind, and I know that it will be okay. Because it's the effort. I can't control when and if I fail again. But it's not a permanent failure. It's a learning lessons. It is a job. It's everything. Because I can't control my cravings. I can't control when my demons and my monster and the beast in my chest decides to rear its ugly head. Only thing I can control is how I deal with that. It's one little thing. If I get to say no one more time, if I know that I will get up when I'm knocked back down, if I know that I'm not going to let my darkness own me, I'm not going to let anything own me. My first counselor said the worst thing that you could ever imagine. You will always be an addict. That's who you are. I felt broken when he said that. Till I realized that doesn't change anything about me. I've always been an addict. I just didn't have the right poison. I always will be an addict. I just don't need to find my right poison again. I need to constantly work on me. Like, it's a selfish thing, not being of a sober mind. It was always the job. It was always the pressure. It was always this, or it was always that, because it helped me distract from what I am. I'm an addict, and I always will be. But I don't have to ever define myself by that. I don't ever have to go back to that same poison. I don't ever have to let myself trap myself in that vicious cycle of not being good enough. And I think maybe you need that same reality. Whatever your drug of choice has you, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fall back into it. But you don't have to stay there. And it's clear you got all the same signs I do. And I never asked what your DLC was. I never asked what monkey was on your back. And I know you struggle with that monkey the same way I struggle with mine. You can't control that. That craving, that urge is going to be there. What you can control is how you deal with it. What you want to do, not what your monster wants to do. And when she says that, she takes a step closer. You notice, since you've turned her down for going to that gala where she was awarded, commended, that she's been keeping at least 6 to 12 feet between you. It's always been having open and easily accessible conversations where others could easily stumble upon you, having always spoken to you from a distance. It's only as she closes that you realize that same adoration, that same want of your company is still there, and that she's been fighting it and holding it at bay to not pressure you. And even in this, there's a remarkable bit of resolve as she holds herself and stops herself from crossing that last few feet to you. And she smiles. Just that way smiles. It's gonna be okay. The monkey is gonna be there. The monster's still gonna be there. But you don't have to let it scare you. You don't gotta let it control you. You also don't have to hide from it.
Storyteller, with what she just, the connection we're having right now, the moment we're having, does Hess know that if she tells Amalia what she thinks she should, that it would ruin all of this, or that she might see her differently? Is there something I should roll for that, or...
Knowing the human heart is an impossibility, but based on where you're standing right now, with all the information there before you, it is clear that underneath all of her gruff exterior, underneath all of her strive for doing for others, there is a sense of self that she has not denied. There is a core of herself that clearly holds loyalty above all else.
You're gonna hear a lot in the next coming days, and I want you to understand. Like I said, that I appreciate you all. I'm gonna do my best, like I said, to protect this place until my very last, whether that be tomorrow or years from now when we're all old and gray. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you knew we were working our best to keep the shelter's lights on, which is why the big man was here earlier. He wanted to reiterate some things with the cops having stopped by. I mean, he's a silent investor, but at the same time, he's not so silent sometimes. You know how men are, thinking they run shit. But, I can't do anything particular about that because he is the wallet and the pockets around here. And as much as we wish the pockets were a little deeper sometimes, we do what we can, right? We do the best we can. Especially you. Is there anything that I can maybe put in request for you, or anything that's broken that needs fixing that I don't know about? Very much out of character, very much changing the subject and backing off from that want to tell her about Sebastian. Sticking with the moment.
Yeah, there is. I didn't tell Donnell because you know how he feels, and quiet as kept, I kind of think that he may have had a slip himself over the last couple of weeks. He's been a little bit more withdrawn, a little bit shorter of temper. And I don't pry. Everybody's demons are their own to deal with. I'm here to help where I can, but Donnell is so private about most things, so I didn't want to tempt him. Alcohol was never really my DLC, so it's not that big of a deal for me. And she begins walking back in, slowly, making sure that you keep pace with her. She moves through the kitchen into the cooler, through the cooler into the freezer. And while alcohol has never really been a problem for me, I don't like to waste because I can cook with it. And I've tried a couple of recipes recently with this, but I don't know where it keeps coming from. it just keeps showing up. Bottle here, bottle there. Almost as if right when I'm almost out of one, another one shows up. And I know Donnell is not paying for it because I see most of the invoices for the food, all the ones that I don't buy. Make sure that we're maximizing as best as we can. And when you move into the freezer, she pulls up one of the wooden crates stocked high with this and that, bits of frozen bread and muffins, and she moves those to the side and she pulls out a bottle and she hands it to you. The freezer is cold. The outside was cold. Hestia, being dead, is naturally cold, but when the bottle sits in her hand, the vitae that is not moving through her system runs colder because she recognizes the image on the label. She recognizes and remembers that smile. She knows what that person was like, having lived in a moment where she had all of those memories of the many instances with him and his puzzles and him peering into the dark and leading them out and helping them in various situations. She hands you the bottle, and it's as if the doors of her jail cell have slammed shut, because there, staring at her from the label on the bottle, was Alston, and over his shoulder is the Viking, Drea.
Attempting to clear her throat, because it definitely feels like she's being choked right now. You've been cooking with this bread?
Yeah, it's an old brand. The label has changed, but I recognize the bottle from when I was cooking down at the Drake. It's a sherry-inspired beer. It goes really good with fish, and you can make a nice tempura batter with it. It's really good stuff. It's a little thicker than you'd expect for the average beer, but it's has a real sweetness to it, and I'm not sure how they ferment it so that it still maintains that natural on the tongue sugar, but it's and I didn't want to say anything because I know that it packs a punch, and I don't want Donnell to fall into it, and I didn't want Sebastian to fall into it. And you know, some of our regulars, they occasionally take a nip here and there. But I don't buy it. Donnell doesn't buy it. And Sebastian, when we send him on runs, he wouldn't buy it. I don't think he can buy it. I know he's old enough, but you know what I mean. I don't think the boy has done anything more than work here forever. And if what everybody says is true, I'm kind of glad that he went out and found himself a life outside of here. I'm just hoping that he hurry up and finds out that this is where he's needed and he comes back.
Her face is just kind of do me a favor. I know you like cooking with this. Can we hold off a little bit till we know where it's coming from? Because I don't want to secretly owe anybody anything that I don't know about. And I know I'm not buying it. You said Donnell's not buying it. We hope. I know it's not Sebastian because he's too young to be buying alcohol. You're familiar with it, but at the same time, I don't know where it's coming from. So I don't want to use things that I don't know where they're coming from, because it could come back to bite us in the ass, especially with these cops running around. So if you have any other bottles, just put them to the side, and I will confiscate them for now and get you some replacements that are actual, like sherry and stuff, right? Is that what you need? And then, you know, we'll figure out where this is coming from before. I mean, if I figure out it's good and we're okay to use it again, then I'll give it all back. But if it's not, then I need to get rid of it, right?
Yeah, sure thing. Of course.
I'm gonna take this bottle with me just to be sure so I can start looking into it, okay?
Okay. Sounds like
But thank you for telling me about this. I appreciate you so much. I have to go back to the office. I'm waiting for that cop to come back. But I just wanted to make sure y'all stayed out of like sight, and everybody was calm. And she kind of takes Amalia's hand and just very gently like squeezes it, and then walks out with the bottle as fast as she can back to the freaking office.
making it back to the office just before Hestia gets there. There's a reality that is in the office. There's a lot of moving parts. Lolly has a backstage pass to most of it. And Miriam is slowly being brought in through her former possession, the hauntings, and the real understanding that this place is a house of magic. There's energy in that. Now, magic, everybody has their different ideas of what that means. But what that literally means is places where the impossible isn't outside of the pale. The improbable is not beyond the pale. Things happen that can't be explained by anything other than its magic. There's a pressure and presence always right over the shoulder. There's a ebb and flow of things that you feel with the mind's eye here that you don't feel anywhere else. And with that understanding, from Miriam having experienced it on a multiplicity of instances, from Lolly being slowly made aware of all of the threats aligning and that could be changed or altered, is there any other moment that they're sharing, understanding what it is that they are in the midst of?
Nope.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
So in the camaraderie silence that grows from the images of the past and the hinted at potentials of take the path least expected and least traveled, by diving directly into the maw, as it were, being bold and decisive, Hestia arrives back.
Oh, good, you're not dead.
Oh, let's not celebrate that just yet. She comes in, shuts the door, and holds up the bottle for the both of them to see, especially towards Miriam. Guess where this was?
Is this safe for work?
What's in the bottle isn't, but yeah.
Miriam will just open her mouth a little and just look maybe a little confused.
If you guessed our walk-in freezer or refrigerator, then you guessed right. And apparently, bottles similar to this have been appearing for months and being used to cook with and fed to the people that live in this shelter.
I'm not sure that's a good thing.
I didn't know until just now. I don't know. She doesn't know. She thought it might be Donnell. Donnell's got a drinking problem, apparently, so she wanted to make sure that it wasn't him. It just mysteriously keeps appearing, so we need to figure out how the fuck it's getting into my fridge. I had her put it to the back. She's been told not to use it for now. I need to look into it. I don't know what. Like, I have a fucking cop coming. This is not good.
What is it?
It's leftovers from the Wan Kwai in Chinatown. They were kidnapping and receiving kindred and thin bloods and turning them into beverages, of which this is one.
We're not supposed to go to Chinatown.
It's a long story. I can be fairly certain that it's not them that was sending us, considering that apparently we have destroyed their main building twice. Twice? Yes, twice. Who had a good relationship with them?
Well, up until recently, the Tremere did, because they were the ones that originally brokered the peace. But you know who also had this at their house?
Fair.
And she had access to the
Who?
shelter. Oh, former frenemy?
That yes, frenemy.
Frenemy. Sophia.
I
the
guess
painter.
you could call her our former boss.
Okay. You know, this whole operation is vulnerable. People come and go, and you don't know who they are, who they're with, or what they want. It could be anyone.
I don't think she specifically did it. I just think I know she had a good relationship with them, and she had a human that could go get her things.
Yes. I suppose we should probably do physical exams. Just like a regular checkup type thing on some of the residents.
Like a rubber glove sort of thing.
I
Not
don't
like
think that quite
rubber glove sort
invasive,
of thing.
but some close.
Yeah, okay, that's the thing to do, I guess. This might sound like an odd question for the situation, but how well did Miss LaSalle know Mr. Gabriel?
Does Miss LaSalle sound familiar to her?
Well, LaSalle's a fairly common name in Chicago. It's a fairly common name in America. But the only LaSalle that she know was named Karen. And the only Karen that she knows personally with the last name of LaSalle was her sire.
She looks at Miriam kind of confused. I only know one LaSalle. And I don't know how tight Mr. Gabriel would have been with that specific LaSalle. That LaSalle has been dead for about as long as a month or so after I've been alive. Or undead, as it were.
Right. I guess it would be the same one. She had an association with the, I guess back at the time it was still the hotel or hospital. But they brokered a deal. Not sure what it was about.
There were several deals made by Karen. One was for my being brought into the fold.
I doubt he would have had much influence over that.
I don't know. He seems to know a lot about me.
When is this detective coming? Because I'm hungry.
Well, there's a all-night Ethiopian restaurant. Well, it's not really all night. It closes above 1, 2 in the morning, sometimes 3. Me and the partner have driven by there a couple of times already. Food's really good, though I'm amazed that that one guy could do it by himself. So, where's the... Where are we gonna do this? We're gonna talk here, or you wanna talk somewhere else? As he closes the door behind him, stepping completely into the room.
Molly will turn her head slowly at him and kind of cock it to the side, and she will read the aura.
Read the aura? You can't do that. Excuse me. You'll need to roll your intelligence plus aspects and fire away when you're ready. Sometimes seeing the future is easy. It's literally like throwing yourself into a small tide pool, a small little enclosed space at a water park where there's safety associates and you have all manner of precautions to keep you from being swept into the wall, swept under another one of the park enthusiasts, is from losing your bathing suit even sometimes. Staring at auras is normally like that. Scrying the soul of the individual is oftentimes more about verifying what you've already suspected. And then there are other times where the potentials are so vast and spiral so far out of control that it's hard not holding them responsible for the assassination of Martin Luther King and President Kennedy and would have been President Kennedy, and all manner of other wrongs and ills that have plagued this society. The before and after moments that have changed the flow of present time. Staring into the detective's aura, staring into the heart of his soul, staring into the energy swirling in and around him is one such moment. You know that he's far older than he seems. You know that he is neither alive nor dead. He is human and mortal and has a beating system. He is as human as you can be and as dead as you can be without being a kindred. Which means from... Does Lolly have a occult 2 or higher?
She does.
He is one of those ghouls who have been enslaved to the power of Vitae so very long. If he was to be responsible for the birth of another human, he would pass that infection down to them. And he is strangely excited. And he stood in the doorway holding it open for far too long. And he has a dark, swirling aura that is filled with malice of intent. Not looking for a reason, just an opportunity.
Yeah, he's special. Like special. Like more so than you thought.
Miriam's eyes will shift over to Lolly, then back to the gentleman.
Who's also about to do something that might be not smart.
Hey. The one thing that I will not be called is anything politically correct. If you're trying to say that I'm fucking stupid, just say that I'm stupid. But I'm not.
I didn't say you were stupid. I said you were about to do something that might be stupid.
That's splitting the hair a little fine, don't you think?
Even the smartest people do stupid things from time to time.
Yeah, that's not the way that works. Not at all. But okay, we're gonna... Look, I'd like to put this thing to bed. I'd like us to not have to keep associating with each other. You guys are already out way past anyone's idea of a safe and healthy bedtime. And to make matters worse, we know that you all are responsible for the death of Sebastian Fairmont. You know his old man was a cop?
I'm aware.
And you know that if news of this gets out, or more accurately, when news of this gets out, that if his old man wasn't dead already, that this would most assuredly put him into his grave. So, how do you all suppose we handle this? We just need you to come clean. We know what you all did. We know you all are responsible.
I don't know that you all was actually the term.
Well, if you were helping before, or helping now, that makes you all, each and every one, responsible, doesn't it? Aiding and abetting before and after the commission of a crime makes you just as liable and culpable for what took place during that crime. Ignorance, as you know, is no excuse of the law. Can I sit down, or we're gonna stand on ceremony?
Miriam will gesture to the couch beside her.
Don't mind if I do. Everybody has wits of 2 or higher, correct?
4.
Yep.
Would you both and all be so kind as to roll your wits plus insight?
Does detect lies apply?
Yes.
Why, I have that too.
Oh, make it happen.
Oh, that would have been bad.
I'll take it. She's hungry.
All right. So, I started with the complete successes. Miriam. Hestia. As the detective moves through the room, it's as if the darkness, the shadows at the corner of the room are moving with him. You know that's not the actual case. You can't be seeing that. He's not like Lucio. He's not like the others of Lucio's ilk. But there is very much a walking darkness that is pulling the light into him. Like your third eye, your heightened senses, your intuition is telling you that in your midst is a pit viper waiting for an opportunity. He is up to absolutely 100% no idea of even being in the same country and continent as Good. And he is so focused on whatever his end goal is that he's even forgotten to wear his badge. He's not carrying his portfolio, the little notepad that he had on his lap when he last left here with his partner. He is wearing a different shirt. His watch that he wore when he was last here is gone. There's intentions afoot. And your sixth sense is screaming, danger, Will Robinson, danger. And Lolly, the moment that he moved away from you, the room got warmer. The moment he moved away from you, the light shifted, and for a shimmering split second, you can see him as that same monstrous Nosferatu that was going to decapitate Hestia. You know that he is not only a physical danger to most kindred, that there is something else that he is a danger to, another level of predation that you are sure not merely poisonous but venomous. You're sure that digesting his flesh will make you spiritually sick, and your beast recoils at the notion. How fucking dare he? You're sure that somewhere out there in the night there are things being moved so that the house of cards falls in on you all, and he is the source of it. It is hard restraining the fact that your beast wants to tear him limb from limb now, not to feed on, but to remove the danger permanently from your path. How are you responding to that, Impetus?
She will stand up from her perch, put her feet back on the floor, which is no longer lava. She will kind of glare at him and give him a weird little unsettling smile as she runs a tongue across her delicate little fangs. She'll just stare at him.
Do you have Sense the Unseen?
I do.
Would you be so kind to go ahead and roll your Wits plus Auspics?
I think if allowed in the situation, she would willpower that.
Fire away.
And that was a marked improvement.
As she stares at him, she is sure that the monster is here. She is positive that she saw the shadow shimmer when she bared her fangs, and instead of it unnerving him as he sat next to Miriam, a dark and devious little smirk played across his face. And And then he focused his gaze on Hestia. So I guess we're just letting it all hang out now, huh? We're coming clean with things, right?
You first. Show me yours, I'll show you mine.
Well, you've already shown me yours.
Lolly. No, say as they're talking, Lolly will back up and use her arm to push Hestia back.
Oh, we're getting tough, are we? And he sits forward, more resting his elbows on his knees. His left foot bracing against the base of the couch. His right leaning a little slightly forward. It's the sort of sitting that lets you know that at a moment's notice he would be prepared to leap forward or off of where he currently is perched. It gives the air, for those not accustomed to any sort of actual physical interactions, that he's at ease, that he's caught in the moment and pretending to put on airs. That's not what's happening.
I know you've been sent here to force their hand, to make them do what they would normally do, but it's not going to happen.
So I'm dealing with you. You're the powerhouse here.
I'm the powerhouse. I'm the shepherd.
Monsters don't need shepherds. That's not the way this works.
Yet you would have a shepherd.
I'm not a monster.
Aren't you?
The fuck you aren't? You act like we don't know what you really are. All those little words you dropped on the phone with me, yeah, we know what you know. But what we want to know is who sent you.
Now, why in God's green earth would I play a trump card? You guys haven't even cut suits. I got everything that you guys have. I got your hearts. I got your diamonds. I've got your clubs. I even got a big and a little joker. So why would I cut spades right now? That makes no sense. I'm not gonna renege. You first.
Because we could make you, but we're asking nicely.
You really can't make me. I'm hitting
That
your
sounds
game.
like a challenge.
Doesn't have to be.
You're right, it doesn't.
How much blood does Hess need for the blood tasting?
A mouthful, a drop, two. Varies depending on the strength of the blood. Doesn't need that much, but needs more than what most would expect.
And I think I need what, the Soul Revolt. Let me look it up real quick so I know if I have everything.
So here's the thing. We know you are responsible for the death of someone related to someone. We know that you all are responsible for the body found in one of your kind's territory. What we don't know is who specifically should be held responsible. We know it was a woman. We know they were small. And he looks at all three of you all. And we know that if we share this information, if we let the investigation go on long enough, that someone's going to come forward with an intention. Someone's going to pay a significant amount for us to find exactly who was responsible. Now, I don't mind making extra money, but Rogers Park has been through enough. No sense of it being destroyed because you all couldn't keep it in your mouth. People die all the time. How painful that turns out for you all is the question. What is it that you're willing to pay to keep this quiet?
And if we know who it was and tell you who it was, how do we proceed?
Well, if you know who it is and they're not worth all that much, you can let the investigation go the way that it's going to go. We already know that it's a woman. The bite marks were small enough that it had to be a woman or a child. We also know that it was someone not extraordinarily strong because there were scuff marks where the body was laid, like someone's trying to ensure that the body had some semblance of respect in its resting place. And that's typically, unfortunately, a woman's trait as well. The body's just the body, it's just meat. Why do you want to make sure that it's laid neatly in place? And yeah, no, that shows love and care. Again, meaning that as one of you all, the boy didn't have anybody save his mother, and his mother is not one of you all.
Hess is going to look very carefully towards both Miriam and Lolly, and then blink. Blade out across the arm to get enough to taste, and keep moving so she is out of the way.
Okay, several things happen at once, as they typically do in these chaotic, tense moments. As the blade flashes in Hesha's hand, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your dexterity and athletics, or dexterity and celerity?
I also have unerring aim, by the way.
Understood.
Lolly is going to mentally facepalm. We already confirmed, or at least Lolly already confirmed what he was.
Mary will discreetly set her sketchpad to the side.
The thing is, we know what he is, but Hestia with this can find out who he belongs to, taking that power away from him.
Several things happen at once. Hestia lashes out. She's suddenly there and gone, dancing around Lolly, who was acting as shield between her and whatever ominous force that Lolly knew was there but couldn't quite grasp. And as Hestia moves, she lashes and lances through the darkness that had been pooling around the detective. and sprawling across the floor in a tumult of action that could only be seen as comical is, well, imagine if humans were made out of wax and then left on someone's dashboard during a hot July morning. The puddle that would be left would perfectly approximate the face of the feigned individual sent sprawling across the detective, knocking the couch nearly over end as Hestia moves towards the door. Dressed in a tumbling mass of clothing that could easily be found in the shelters Lost and Found, is the living embodiment of a melted individual. The only thing keeping it in place is the bones underneath, which poke out at odd angles here and there. The slash that was intended for the detective having torn open the undead, melted, waxy substance that approximates its skin. The hiss of pain is reminiscent of that voice in the back of each of your head when you risk hunger. There is clear that the moment is joined. It is clear that the very present and invisible hands are now seeking purchase on the throat of the coterie. It is officially a combat situation with you three outnumbering the detective, who is now drawing down, and his Nosferatu bodyguard that he brought along at his master's behest. With your pad sitting next to you on the couch that was nearly rocked end over end in Hestia's movement and Nosferatu attempting to intercept, with Lolly on one side, Miriam close enough to touch, and Hestia by the door. What is it that you all are attempting to do?
So you're saying I've got
Here.
Nosferatu blood on my blade instead of the detective?
Yes.
Is this the same Nosferatu I saw last time the cop was here?
No. That Nosferatu was actually, well, if you see him in Elysium, you'd be able to pinpoint who he was. You actually did see the part of the source behind all of this. This Nosferatu is literally there as a hidden hand, a protective asset, which has now been laid bare. The element of surprise no longer on their part.
Well, Lolly, being unable to fight and assuming that no one's looking at her, is going to attempt to go unseen passage.
Well, seeing that the blood on her blade is not who she intended, but it worked just the same to uncover something, she smirks. Oh, the game is afoot, it seems. And goes again, not this time, not for the detective, but for the Nosferatu.
And Miriam, seeing this development, what is in Miriam's mind to do?
I mean, violence isn't usually her first resort. But seeing as we're attempting to get some blood from this guy, at least, she is going to try to stab him in the leg with her pencil. The detective, that is.
Excellent. So everyone's moving. No one's paying attention to Lolly, or at least not initially. The most prevalent and present physical threat that they can determine is Hestia, the moving target that she is. The detective, having scrambled to draw his service issue, at least the one that he's willing to toss off and use as a drop piece, levels and fires, expecting her to move into the path of his firing. the Nosferatu is attempting to put Hestia into the ground because, well, that was an attack. How fucking dare you? He screams as his gnarled, melted, mangled limbs and appendages seem to be moving as if they are floating along a stream, as if he's buffeted by invisible waves. So that being the case, Miriam, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your strength plus melee -1. Hestia, would you be so kind as to roll your dexterity plus select, or no, I'm sorry, you're seeking to actually attack. Be so kind as to go ahead and roll your strength plus melee versus, of course, their counteractions of attempting to attack and put down Hestia. And unfortunately, this isn't the movies. The suppressor doesn't dampen sound, not significantly enough. First, the explosion of the floor above you, and now gunshots going off in the office.
Does Lolly manage to slip into obfuscate?
Lolly who? There's no one else there.
Sweet.
It seems like this would be a good time to, have some extra dice.
Yes, tempt the beast. Always tempt the beast.
Yay, that brings me to hunger 4 now.
Oh Lord.
But I'm safe from harm until someone starts bleeding.
Oh Lord. It is about to get very, very freaking dangerous.
Nosferatu's already bleeding.
Nosferatu's not living. No one cares about the Nosferatu. They're not alive.
Generally, bleeding is a choice for us.
They're not alive. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Perfectly silky smooth. Perfectly silky smooth. It's fine. Nothing bad will ever happen.
Geez, I'd never get that taste out of my mouth.
Right.
Bad things happen. Bad things happen indeed. Hestia moves. She becoming liquid lightning. She becoming the very spirit of electricity, moving through the room, zipping this way and zipping that. Her sight locked on to the Nosferatu, who in fact has locked on to her. The explosive percussion of the firearm going off, missing her by what seems like miles. Miriam lurching forward, her pin driving into the thigh of the detective. Hestia's blade connecting with the Nosferatu that is driving her into the ground. It is a snarling, vicious thing that she watches happen. She's never been held by something that is at once immediately soft and spongy and feels as if she's being licked all over by a mountain of slugs, and yet as hard and firm as the steel wrought iron I-beams that help build the cities of America. The explosive sound of the firearm going off in such a closed space. Anyone with heightened senses is now at a penalty of -1. And Lolly, would you be so kind as to roll 1/3 of your humanity, your unspent willpower, DC 3.
We round up or down?
Round down. The beast threatens to kick Lolly out of her own body. The beast opens the door without realizing that you have to unlock it first. So it struggles and struggles and strains, and the very firmament of her being is being rattled by its attempts to break free and take control. The scent of all of that iron-rich goodness is intoxicating. Hestia, total damage in the vicious onslaught of this horrible feeling. Imagine being completely and totally dry but moist at the exact same time as it slithers over your skin and its claws dig into the flesh of your arms. That's where Hestia is, as it is attempting to divest her of the ability of using her arms. That small ceremonial sacrificial dagger in her hand, flashing out and nipping at the air. It is a weird thing to be held so firmly and viciously by a thing that wants to bury itself inside her. Its gaping maw moving closer as it snarls and snaps, and its claws tearing through her skin, ruining her ensemble. That is a total of 7.5 to 3.5 that she takes in the exchange of ideas. And we'll round down in this particular case because he only exceeded by 1.
Is that superficial or?
Yes.
I'm just gonna track that real quick so I don't forget.
In 2 rounds.
In 2 rounds, what's happening?
Oh no, just the time clock. Effectively 2 rounds.
Okay. What Hessa is going to do, since he's made her bleed and his face is so close, and he's got her arms pinned, the only thing she can do really is bite her tongue and summon Ball's Caress and kind of splatter her blood into his mouth, getting him to swallow it.
I see. And Lolly and Miriam. And there's like the screaming in pain, trying to reach for the pencil stuck into his thigh. And his sweet, iron-rich blood coating the air. What is it that everyone else is doing?
While he's distracted, I'm going to try to get the gun away from him.
Excellent. And Lolly.
Lolly will back into the farthest corner, curl on the floor, and bite into her own wrist.
Okay, so normally my pool is 8, but you said we are -1, so it's 7 for this roll?
For your Ball's Caress is, don't forget the rouse cost. And you're going to be rolling your strength plus blood sorcery.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's normally a pool of 8.
And while that roll is happening, Miriam, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll a strength versus strength? He is a strength plus brawl, sorry. as you wrestle him for his gun to disarm him.
Oh, good. Does the rouse still apply for the scene or just their turn?
That's for the scene. Where does that place Hesh's hunger at presently?
I said it too.
Oh my goodness. So as Lolly backs away, as the very definition of martial combat, as the very definition of violence unfettered, springs up in the space around her, the scent of blood flooding the air, she watches as Miriam savages the gun out of the detective's hand, taking with it not just a fair share of skin, but his index finger. She snatches it free of him as he struggles to maintain control, offhandedly thinking that simply because he has a overabundance of working, vibrant, living muscles, that he can overpower a member of the kindred community. The dead don't have such qualms as holding back or making sure they don't tear portions of themselves. That much is evidence as Miriam snarls and snatches the tool of death, which is all that a gun is, out of his hands, taking his index finger with it, sending his blood squirting forward into the air, adding more.
He should have had better gun discipline.
And making the insult of the injury all the worse. The snarling, gargling pain of Kindred Vitae being cooked mixes with all of that thick, rich, coppery goodness. And the slight, sweet, melon-like scent behind the Kindred Vitae melds until the point it smells as if you all are making a nice, homemade blood salsa. A little melon, a little lime, a little cilantro, maybe some onion thrown in there. It smells absolutely odoriferous. It is hell on earth. And there's one round left. And what are you all doing? As the detective screaming in pain, as the Nosferatu snarling and snapping in pain, and Lolly sitting in the corner feeding on herself and attempting to not give in to the true bestial nature at the heart of every kindred. As the Vitae touches down and coats her tongue, as the violence erupts around her. Would you be so kind as to roll her resolve plus composure DC 3? And realizing that you have caused significant damage to these individuals, what is it that Miriam and Hestia are doing? As now the pain is significantly enough that the Nosferatu is damming the hatches and just attempting to clamp down fangs first into whatever portion of Hestia he can connect with. And the detective is shocked and amazed as he's staring as his blood just squirts from where his knuckle bone that connected his index finger is now exposed to the open air.
Miriam will tuck the gun behind her, kind of like she's a naughty child. But if you promise to behave, I'll patch that up for you. And she'll just smile at him.
The scream that is erupting. You can tell he's attempting to choke it down. The scream that is threatening. Somewhere deep down inside him, you can see vibrating through it as he's attempting to tough it out. He's attempting, holy, and the Nosferatu is gargling and snarling and attempting to bury itself into Hestia's flesh.
With her being shorter than him, if she tucks herself into his body under his chin where he can't get at her head, is that a possibility?
She could definitely try.
She's going to do her best to kind of wrap herself around herself and maybe tuck her knees up under between his body and like kind of push.
That is a strength plus brawl. And Miriam, that is a manipulation plus persuasion. And Lolly, the scream that tears out of you is not your own. The scream that tears out of you is the death of who you were before you died. It is the last death knell of all that is relatively unstained in your being. It is the death of all the innocence that you once held, and the immediate lapsing of your control over your darker self. The taste of your vitae, the scent of the blood. You have one round and you have to feed. Not even a full round. You have an action. One action. You get to choose your target, but that's all that happens. You get to choose which target your darker self will seek to possess.
Well, it's not going to be that yucky Nosferatu. What she'd like to do is run out of the room and find another target, but I don't think that's going to be possible.
So aiming towards the door, looking for a place to release this darkness, to get some reprieve from everything that's welling up in her. What's her strength plus brawl?
Two.
Excellent. First, Mr. Nosferatu man, and then second, Mr. Detective man. What are you guys doing? How is this happening? What's going on with y'all? Are y'all gonna do anything? Are y'all not gonna do anything? Is what we need to know, because it is 100% beyond all shadow of a doubt. Way past. Mr. Nosferatu man, what is it that you think you did? Absolutely nothing. And Mr. Detective man, what does fate say in your regard? Are you able to act in any semblance of a way? Bad things happen to everybody. Fate has every ideation to laugh in our faces. Plans are made. It seeks to rout us when we least expect it. It seeks to save us when we most doubt it. Save us from ourselves and from our darker impulses. Unfortunately, that is not the case in this moment. As Miriam places the gun behind her back, the detective screams bloody murder and lurches forward. His one good hand, his one good portion of his being not ruined in a bloody mess, as he puts his left hand around the very soft, dead flesh of Miriam's throat, attempting to drive her back against the wall and wrestle his gun from her and put two into her brain pan. Lolly hits him, knocking him just off course enough that while he does connect with Miriam, he drags the two of them down as Lolly sets upon him on her way to the front door, her beast taking what it can in the moment. And all of that fresh, flowing, rich, thick blood is just the ticket that she would much rather prefer elsewhere but any port in the storm. As she tucks her knees under and attempts to roll forward and past the Nosferatu's grip, he connects, his fangs burying itself into her shoulder. And fate laughs and chortles and chuckles, and the door opens and Donnell is there, Amalia over his shoulder, a butcher's knife in hand, a dirty drag army of your residents in tow, as the gunshot is not an unheard, an unusual sound for them. This is Chicago. This is Rogers Park. They know what a gun sounds like, and they know when one of their own is in jeopardy and in danger. And unlike 85% of the population, instead of running away and finding a place to hide, instead of hoping the danger would pass, that the monsters in the dark would not reach up and tickle your feet, because after all, you have the blanket covering them, they run towards the danger. They run towards the threat to their home and their community. Donnell, bodily leading the charge, Amalia, his strong right hand and heart of the shelter, barreling through the door, their gaze looking for whom and what is the danger. They have survived too much. This place means too much for them to take off running. Fire they can't do much against. That's what the fire extinguishers are for. Police, there's not much they can do anything with. The police are police, but gunshots inside their home, that's another matter entirely.
I also wanted to point out that even though that probably hurt her like hell, that the Nosferatu bit her, her blood is still very much poison, and he just got a big old another mouthful of it.
Oh yeah. And what is everyone doing?
Well, if she's aware and able, she's going to try to detach from this guy and hope that it comes across as she was just biting him because she's girl fighting or whatever.
Miriam is going to do her best to shoo them off.
Miriam obviously does not know her staff very well.
I said try, not succeed.
So, in the amount of time it takes to take in the scene, in the split second for what is going on to register, Donnell is moving forward to help his sister. Molly is backing up Donnell. The other straggling members of the residency are moving into the room, looking for the gun and attempting to keep these things. Clearly the physically defiled man attempting to do his ungodly best against Hestia. And why is the cop here? We don't know, but there's blood everywhere, and they're trying to pull everyone apart, and a few of the residents getting in absent-minded kicks or elbows as they do so, as the detective is screaming and trying to find the words to explain just how much pain he's in, and the Nosferatu realizing that the jig is up. Miriam, would you be so kind as to roll your manipulation and persuasion? Lolly, would you be so kind to roll your charisma and subterfuge or persuasion? And Hestia, you didn't declare what your actions were you're hoping to accomplish with it.
Oddly enough, she is going to play victim. She's going to make sure that her fangs aren't bared and be seen to be struggling against him and try to make herself seem as human as possible.
I assume it was too quick, but did Lolly slake any hunger?
Yeah, it's technically too quick, but with all of the free-flowing blood and adrenaline, you can safely say that she successfully slaked one.
Alrighty.
And Hestia, would you be so kind as to roll your charisma plus persuasion? There is a singularity of mind. It is us versus them that sits at the heart of every contention, that sits at the heart of every debate, agenda, and ideology. Us versus them. Those on the inside versus those on the outside. And in this moment, the greatest danger are the large male dragging Lolly and Miriam to the ground. The greatest threat is that clearly physically scarred individual attempting to horribly molest Hestia. The outpouring of pain and challenge that Donnell, Amalia, and the other residents dish out is enough to make the heart swell. But in the midst of that, instead of stopping with the attempting to pull free and the random, occasional, accidental, purposeful elbows and kicks, there's something else. There is a release of all of the trauma that they have suffered through in being part of this community. It is a groupthink bit of madness that they give themselves over to all of the fear that has held them, all of the trauma that has affected them, and all the drama that they have managed to survive thus far. It is, in any other situation, any other moment, it would be affirming in the faith of mankind for mankind. It is those who see something who are going to do. It would be a testament to the human spirit. But in this moment, it is impossible for the kindred, as in touch with their beast as they are, to see it for anything except for a human's version of frenzy. This is those dark, intrusive thoughts and responses that come from them as they pull and claw and elbow and strike and wrestle with powers infernal in the attempt to take back some agency for their lives. They see the madness for what it is, and instead of rebuking it, instead of choking it down, they turn into the skid. Unfortunately for them, the Nosferatu, screaming in pain, needing a release, needing to make a salve for all the pain that it is in fact feeling, lashes out. And you all see the effects of what Potence can do as he makes a way out for himself. The supernatural strength that is one of the many gifts of the Nosferatu bloodline lets itself be known as he kicks and tears free, screaming away as the detective attempts to fight through the pain and reach for a badge that's not there. He attempts to wrestle control of the scene and it's not there. The combined onslaught of Miriam's pencil, her tearing his finger free, and Lolly draining him. It is too much. You all know what the outcome. You all will, in fact, have to deal with that. As he tries to crawl free, Donnell tries to assume some semblance of sanity in the outpouring of pain. And you hear Amalia's knife drop to the floor, clattering, covered in something's blood. As the detective staggers free, screaming and gurgling and trying to make his way out of the shelter. What is it that you all are doing? As he stumbles in a clear death spiral to make his way free. As the Nosferatu, gurgling with pain, tears free of Hester's flesh and makes his way through the humans on the way out. Is there anything that you three are attempting to do?
Lolly will shriek at the top of her lungs, "No, stop, move." She will try to help the detective out of the room.
Yeah, Miriam would probably be doing fairly similar to the same, except she would hand Darnell the gun because she doesn't use guns.
And Hess was being let go and probably a good bit hurt, but in the chaos, she needs to know who the cop belongs to, because if he dies, they still have to deal with it. But if he gets away, they're still going to have to deal with it. So while everything's kind of going on, she's going to sneak a bit of the blood that's free flowing and everywhere in the room right now to find out what she needs to know.
How is she attempting to sneak blood, dude?
As she kind of rolls over onto her knees near the couch, there's bound to be some on the floor, so quick flash of tongue and then trying to get up, but her body is blocking because she's on her hands and knees.
I mean, to be fair, we do still have a finger on the floor.
Very much so, but you can sometimes go ahead and roll your dexterity and subterfuge. And Molly, you're attempting to utilize the chaos of him trying to stagger free to escort him further past the people that the Nosferatu has torn through. Would you be so kind as go ahead and roll your manipulation plus brawl? And if you want to roll for you both, you get a +1 from Miriam's assistance in doing so. Or if Miriam attempts to roll for herself, she would need to roll the same pool. Manipulation plus subterfuge to hide their end purpose, which is to get the detective out but still keep him in control of you all.
Does Miriam have any brawl?
In actuality or on her sheet?
On her sheet. Because if her die pool's not any better than mine, it's probably better to take the +1. But that's up to Miriam.
Well, is it an assistive action, or you're attempting to work in accordance but solely under your own power? Miriam?
Oh, sorry. I did not realize I was muted.
Hey, that's my move.
End of day. Right. I would say probably trying to work kind of in concert, like using the fact that they probably recognize that she has medical training and is maybe trying to maneuver him to the infirmary to get him some assistance.
Alright, so that's on her own accordance, or she assisting?
I would say probably assisting.
Alright, lovely. Roll with a +1.
Just lending her authority to it.
Alright, it's not great. Here we go.
It's amazing what people turn a blind eye to. It's amazing all of the details that your eye can track and that bombards the mind in stressful situations. But it's also amazing how much is tuned out. And in the fracas, in the pell-mell, in the scrum, watching as the Nosferatu clears a hole like the entirety of every offensive lineman that has ever been drafted into the NFL, bodies knocked aside, people torn through, literally as pieces of them, their first 2 or 3 layers of skin beneath their clothes is scraped away as he tears free, the detective staggering after, and you all riding him like banshees. And it's just too much. It's a lot of a lot. They can only track so much. They can only find and figure out and put right in their head so much, and in the madness of the moment, you're not exactly sure how anyone's viewing what is happening, except for that it is bad and getting worse, and that tomorrow is only promised, not that you would be there to see it. As Nosferatu tears his way out of the shelter, everyone in his way being knocked over, bowled through, and screaming into the night. The detective is ridden down to the ground like he's a Cape buffalo, weak and old, being hunted and hounded by lionesses, dragged to the ground. And instead of it being a death knell, a scream heard round the world, it's a whimper. It is clear that the detective knows that it's over for him, that things have gone too far. It's weird. But in that moment, even with that drive to survive, there's an almost acceptance of his fate. The cries of pain, the grunts, the gnashing of teeth falling away, and his skin growing clammier by the moment. You could swear that he was only in his mid to late 40s, mid to late 50s at the outside. But as you all lay hands on him, he suddenly seems a decade and a half older, just in a matter of a few moments. As you all drag him to the ground and punt him mostly towards the triage center, the infirmary, the local hospital inside the building, it seems as if he's a decade and a half older than he should be. And while the finger that was torn free has already seemed to begun scabbing over, the blood doesn't flow nearly as quickly as it did inside the office. It is clear that the efforts of whatever that is and whatever that was is too much for the body. His breathing is a little more shallow than it should be. And as Hestia on her knees comes up with a taste of all of that sweet coppery goodness, Donnell is crouched by her, gun in his left hand, her mouth covered in a few droplets and excess splatter from the blood, her shoulders savaged by the Nosferatu, and her sacrificial dagger sitting nakedly in her hand. He crouches and raises both brows as he seeks to make eye contact and make sure that she's okay. And the question of tomorrow, which has plagued mankind since its very beginning, sits there for the coterie, sits there for Lolly, knowing there's a before and an after. Sits there for Miriam, realizing that in the span of a few months, not only has she considered taking up active arms, she has done so in protection of herself in this coterie more than she'd ever thought possible. And while it's horrible and bad watching a kindred or a member of the Lupines expire, watching a human do so changes that somewhat. Watching a human swept up into the world that you all inhabit, for all of the good, for all of the ill, for all of the many places in between, watching him expire before your eyes is no easy thing. Knowing that your hand is the cause of it. You missed the artery in the leg, you're pretty sure. You didn't mean to sever his finger, cause blood loss, you're pretty sure. And you know that Lolly lapping so quickly and jealously at his body didn't help, but he would not have been in dire straits if not for your direct hand and action. In short, it's a lot of a lot. And we circle back around to the idea that tomorrow is not promised for anyone. And as Hestia meets Donnell's gaze, and she can hear Molly checking after everybody else's safety and trying to help those who have been torn asunder, who have been literally been torn a new one. And as chaos once more settles over the shelter, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode. Can't wait till next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Damn it. Good night.
I would have thought that Mary would have tried to save him.
I mean, I was trying to get him to stand down. It's like, if you cooperate, I will patch you up.
Can't save you all now.
He said, fuck that.
I mean, he wasn't